First race, you probably missed my off-season work, so here's a quick refresher. Things start with 100 kilometers of people trying not to get tired, mostly by staying out of the wind and eating, like Team Sky here, while a group up the road engages in a proxy competition of lottery ticket poker for camera time and bragging rights. And yes, there's a video about that, too. Sky put the calories to good use around 87k to go, taking a minute out of the breakaway and prompting heated discussion of cornering technique. 8k later, the field decided the gap was falling too quickly and eased off until the slack pace got straight up ridiculous on a wide section of road. And sidewalk, and also bus lane. Sky reasserted control, demonstrating that leading the peloton over cobblestones will, in fact, grow your beard faster. Lotto Soudal's Stig Brooks made the first serious attack just after the Kreuzberg, but lacked the beard to stay clear. At 60k out, MTN Quebec's Matthew Brameyer finally got tired of pretending he wasn't the strongest guy in the breakaway and attacked. This distracted the cameras from the real action, which was Team Beard using a strong breeze and narrow road to put the group to ribbons just ahead of the Tyenberg, which, as we all know by now, is the favorite launching pad of Etixx-QuickStep's Tom Bonin, for the record, also bearded. Those who made the ensuing selection gave it lip service, but with a lot of racing left to go, were largely happy to let Brameyer, along with giant Shimano's Albert Timmer and AG Desert's Alexis Gouchard, hold the spotlight a bit longer, dancing around the usual classics obstacles. As the group began to swell again, Sky sent Luke Rowe up the road to take the pressure off the Beards. The chase engaged in a general protest against rules telling them where to ride, and by 45k to go, it was all together. A period of disorder followed. IAM Cycling's, wait for it, Sylvain Chavanel didn't, and missed out 2k later, when on the Haarhoek cobbles, EQS's Stijn Vandenberg surged forward and got help from Bonin, Sky's Ian Stannard, and Lotto NL Jumbo's Sepp Van Marke to form a selection. Sadly, the last of those three riders flatted, and because this is a real bike race, no one waits for the man in yellow, leaving Stannard and 3 quick-steps to carry on up the road. It's a good move for EQS, and they drove it immediately, but despite being massively outnumbered, Stannard was happy to go along. He chased a similar move early in the race last year, and until Etixx-QuickStep attacks, he doesn't have to do any work. And Etixx-QuickStep didn't attack for a long time. Yes, you could argue that they needed to keep driving to stay ahead of a chase by Van Marke and BMC's Greg Van Avermaet, which got as close as 13 seconds, but Zdenek Stybar's presence in that chase meant that even if both groups came back together, EQS would still have 4 riders in a break of 7. Even when they did finally get around to leveraging their numbers with all of 5k remaining, they didn't do a great job. The first move from Nicky Terpstra was a slow increase in tempo as Vandenberg lets a gap open. Stannard, coming off 35k of sitting on, has precisely 0 problems closing it. Seconds later, with Stannard pinned on the front, Bonin throws a doozy of an attack. If the Sky Rider hadn't been resting for 3 dozen k, it might have won the race. But instead, it left a fresh-ish Stannard ample time to slowly rev his diesel up while Bonin began to bog down in a sea of lactate. When Stannard completes the bridge at 3.4k, Terpstra's near-immediate attack isn't a bad idea, but Stannard is 1, already moving pretty fast, thus taking his unsnappy acceleration out of the picture, and 2, totally waiting for it. But I bet Stannard was surprised to see Vandenberg follow Terpstra, which makes no sense, shortened the gap the Sky Rider needed to close by the longest wheelbase specialized makes, and left his team's ace-in-the-hole sprinter struggling alone at the back of the group. Stannard's counterattack moments later is wonderfully delivered. Terpstra and Bonin are still recovering while Vandenberg is on the front pulling, meaning Stannard's putting down watts when all 3 of his opponents are least able to respond. Vandenberg cracks, and best of all for Stannard, Terpstra's chase drops the still flailing Bonin. I can't blame Terpstra or say that they could have worked together to get Bonin into the sprint, but the gap is never more than 3 seconds before the final 500 meters. It's close enough that Stannard has no option to cat and mouse, which is still less bad for him, as again, he doesn't have a punchy acceleration, but as he showed last year, can definitely hold off riders from the front. And maybe that's what Terpstra was thinking, passing him nearly 300 meters out, and there was a raging tailwind, but just no. Terpstra has the ability to open space on Stannard, but just does it from too far out, leaving the Sky Rider 150 meters to juggernaut his way up the speed. Terpstra attempts to complicate things for Stannard in the closing meters by diving towards the barriers, but despite the extremely late pass, the Sky Rider still comes around with enough inevitability to celebrate before the line. I'm Cosmo Catalano, and that's how the race was lost, won.